today we're going to do a little demo where we show for the first time how to use our visual query builder. And for that I'll use a database that is already a few years old, and it's a database that comes from Psych, and it is enriched with the information about terrorists. And what I'm going to do first is show you some of the data, and then once I've shown you the data, I will write a SPARQL query that will show you how to find the common properties of the leaders of terrorist organizations. So that is the goal of this particular small demo. Now let's start with the data. So I have full text indexed this database, and let me find say all the information about Osama bin Laden. So I click on add, and then I go here and I type Osama bin Laden, and here I get all the triples that have somewhere, somehow Osama bin Laden in it. So just for fun, I click on Al-Qaeda. So now I have Al-Qaeda here. I could hit the letter T for tabular, and I'm in the table view. So what do we know about Al-Qaeda? Here's a bunch of organizations that it's able to control. It's affiliated with a number of groups. There's a comment. Here are some enemies of it, and here's some leaders and some members. It's in certain regions, etc., etc. So now I'm hitting the letter G to go back to the graph view again. I could also do view G. So now I'm back, and let's look at the properties of Al-Qaeda. Say I right click on Al-Qaeda and I say, okay, let's look at the subject relationships that I can see. And I could say, well, I'm interested in the leaders, and I want to see all of them. So now I've got all the leaders of Al-Qaeda. Actually, I also could hit the letter I here and select all the properties known for this terrorist group, and I could not only take the triples that point out from Al-Qaeda, but all the triples that point to Al-Qaeda. So now I have both. And I could go back. I hit the letter C, so I have Al-Qaeda. If I hit the letter F, I get almost too many links. So I could select some properties, and then we see some more properties about Al-Qaeda. Yeah, but let's go back to the beginning. We wanted to know common properties of leaders of Al-Qaeda. So I take Al-Qaeda, and I do Ctrl+C to copy it, and then I go to the graphical query view, or the letter E. And so I go there, and I do Ctrl+V, and now I have my starting point here in the query editor. And let's get the leaders of Al-Qaeda. So I right-click, and I add a node variable, and I call it a leader. I call it a leader, and then I want to make sure I get the right predicate. So I right-click on it, and I say, okay, add a predicate link. And so I get a pop-up menu, and I take reference predicates. This means that it will give me only the predicates that apply to Al-Qaeda. I click on that one and say, I go to has leader. So I find this. Now notice how easy this is. Normally when you write SPARQL queries, you have to find namespaces, etc., etc. But what you see now is at the bottom is the full Psych namespace plus the name of the predicate. Anyway, I click on this, and so now we have has leaders. Yeah. So I could show you the text of the query, and we say here, select every leader where Al-Qaeda has a leader. Yeah, and I could do the query, and I get all the leaders of Al-Qaeda. Okay, I'm going back to the graphical query view. So I hit the letter E again, and so now I'm back here. And say I want to have also the founding agent of this guy. So I right click on it, I say add node variable, and I say founding father, or founder. So now I have a founder. And I right click on Al-Qaeda again, and I add a predicate link again. And let's take the reference predicate again and say let's find the founding agent. So now we have a founding agent. Yeah. So now we have a founding. We have Al-Qaeda and two properties, leaders and founders, and I can do the query, and we'll see the leaders and the founders. Okay, I go back to the query view, and now I want to make sure that just for fun, that I only get the names of the founders and leaders if they're not the same. So one thing I could do is I could say, well, right click again, let's add a filter link. Yeah, and now I can choose, like, okay, they have to be the same, or they're not the same, or if these things were numeric, I could say smaller than, bigger than. In this case, I will say not is. Yeah, and so let's look at the query. And so now we see that we built in a filter that says that the founder is not the same as the leader. Yeah, so here we have the leader, and then here we have the founder, and here we say that they should be different. I can do the query again. We get this list. Go back again and say we not only want information about Al-Qaeda, but about all terrorist organizations. So one thing I could do is say, well, I want to make sure that I get all the organizations of type terrorist. Well, how do I do this here? I right click on Al-Qaeda, and I click on convert to variable with types, and I click on that one. And let me see, I make it a new node variable, and I call it a terror group. Yeah. And now we see, because in the database, Al-Qaeda had the type of terrorist group Islamist, we automatically get a type restriction on this thing. So now if I show you the text query again, you'll find select the terror group and leader and founder, where the terror group has a leader, and a founding agent, founder, and the terror group has the IDF type, and then you get this particular type. Yeah, and we still have this filter here, and we can do the query, and again you see here the table of results. So let's go back to the query view again. Yeah, so we've kind of built already a big SPARQL query, but the initial query we wanted to do is to say, okay, give me all the properties of the leaders. So what I can do is I can say, well, let's make a node variable, and we call it in this case other. Yeah, and I want to get all the properties. So what I also can do is add a predicate variable link. Yeah, so I don't have a name for this link, although, well, I could call it link, but I don't have a particular predicate name. And so now basically I get the names of all, now I get the properties of the leaders of terrorist groups. So let me show you the query. Yeah. So now we get already this terror group, leader, founder, other, link, where the leader has a link to someone else, or to something else. And there's a terror group, there's a leader and a founder, and this terror group is of type terrorist group Islamist. Yeah, and so I can do the query, and so here I get a whole bunch of results for this particular query. Now I can even continue, because say I want to reduce my results, and I only want to see the terrorist groups where Osama bin Laden is the leader. So I could put a filter on leader. So I right-click leader, and I say specify node filter. Yeah, and then I can do all kinds of things. I can say whether the thing has to be bound or not, whether it's a blank node or a literal. I can even do equality operations, but in this case we do a regular expression, and we say the thing needs to contain Osama. Okay, And now we do the query again. So now I show you the text of the query again. And here you see the new filter that was added. So whenever I write SPARQL queries, my problem is that whenever I have to write this filter expression, I always have to go to the W3 website again to find the particular function I'm looking for. But with this query editor, it comes automatically and will write the code for you. So go back and let's do the query. And then we're here and we get the result. And that basically concludes the demo. The only thing I want to say now is there's some other things that we're working on. Expect in the near future that we also add a union to the mix, and we're working on optional. And then I would say that we got almost most of everything in SPARQL covered.